rapidly and judiciously. And I thank you for your attention, and am available to questions.
Thank you.
All right. Well deserved. Wanda has asked me to try to ask people right now to ask very clarifying questions, and then we're going to have another talk by Dr. John Coffin, and then we might have a greater chance for more detailed, broader discussion. But as again a chair, and this may be our last meeting, I do want to make one comment. First of all, Dan, thank you very, very much. And you know, this is reminiscent of what I heard a long time ago with perinatal HIV infection. And I would just tell you that, like everyone else who's probably calling you, the long-term follow-up study in pediatric HIV has 87,000 plasma N cells frozen away from our patients. That certainly it would be interesting to look at 2 retroviral possible infections in our population group. But it's eerily frightening at the same time to hear what you've said. And as a pediatrician, I'm on this committee because I've reported some cases of pediatric HIV and pediatric chronic fatigue syndrome. And so now you've opened the window that there may be perinatal infection, and that really is very helpful for the adults to demonstrate perinatal transmission if there is perinatal, and follow children very carefully as if they're infected with this virus. And again, thank you very much. First question was Chris, and then Len, and then Ron. Okay.
I just wanted to make a quick comment and then follow up with a question. I'd like to commend the Whittemore Peterson Institute for their willingness to share this information with the scientific community and their openness to collaboration with all and everybody that's interested in this. We were fortunate this week that Judy and Vinny, Dr. Mikovits and Dr. Lombardi spent the best part of a day with us to discuss their findings and possibilities for collaboration. They laid themselves open to a presentation to our faculty and students, and were able to answer all sorts of challenging questions. So it's very refreshing, and I think speaks to some of the recommendations we've been making on this committee about centers, cooperative research agreements, you know, with interested parties. My question concerns a criticism by Dr. Reeves of the actual paper, which he commented he was very surprised that science accepted it, and he made a comment that the population was not well characterized. Would you care to respond to that?
I think publishing in science should speak for itself.
It did for me. But
secondly, the population is well characterized. This was not a clinical paper. This was not to talk about the individual patients that presented with XMRV. But they were extensively studied clinically before entrance into.
Thank you.
Once again, we thank you all. I mean, it's an incredibly interesting, provocative, important presentation to our group. I had 2 questions. You know, one had to do with Mike had mentioned that there was some collaboration that's currently going on with the CDC and some of the blood samples from your institute. I was wondering if you could comment on that. And the second question has to do with the blood supply. And given the findings of infection that is occurring, that your data suggests, are there some kind of guidelines that are out there that the NCI has that you might be able to comment on? And most importantly, are there some legal implications of a person potentially getting a transfusion now and being, after that, positive for this retrovirus? And what are there any cases now that actually this has occurred with? And what are the legal implications for something like this for our country?
The I'll take the second question first and then defer the first one. I have already been approached by 2 attorneys that specialized in post-transfusion HIV disease with respect to their being on the lookout for post-transfusion XMRV. And they are very, very keen to pursue this from a legal standpoint for their clients. We certainly, interestingly, have cohorts of patients who became ill post-transfusion. We have one in particular where we have located the donors of his transfusions, and I'm very anxious to test them. We have pre- and post-transfusion specimens on this particular patient. So I think that story will be forthcoming. At the present time, I think that I would make much stronger recommendation than caution. We certainly advise our patient. I actually had a patient who told me coincidentally that she was donating blood on Friday. I saw her on Tuesday. And I have generally advised patients not to give blood, but this woman wanted to do her little duties civically. And so if that one patient is doing that, so are a bunch of others, not to mention the 4% incidence in the control population. For your first question, I cannot really answer that, but I could ask Annette Whittemore to address that if you could, Annette.
Whittemore of the Whittemore Peterson Institute to amplify the answer to the question, and then we will ask you to return to your seat, please, so that then Dr. Coffin can come up. Thank you.
Thank you. The question again about collaboration, and if you would just ask the question again so I can...
Sure. As an academic, it's hard for me to be simple, but
yeah, that's okay.
One of my handicaps. We heard from Mike that there were kind of several kind of groups of blood samples that were being looked at the CDC, and if I'm understanding Mike's comments correctly, the Whittemore Peterson Institute was one of the places that he mentioned as actually having blood samples that he was, or not him, but the CDC was currently involved in analyzing. And I just wanted to ask kind of what is the nature of that collaboration that you have, and in fact, do they have blood samples from your institute?
I actually had to ask that question when I heard it. It was a surprise to me. I am very hopeful that that's the case, and that probably is going through Dr. Mikovits. However, the concern, since we are absolutely willing to share the samples, is that the techniques are used appropriately, and of course, the right techniques have been developed. So I can't answer that, and I certainly hope that the individuals that are involved are working very closely together to make sure that that happens. Also, and I know, Wanda, you asked me if I would sit. I've asked for 5 minutes time to make a public comment, and I'd like to know when I might be able to do that today.